On November 19, 1942, Soviet forces assault from every side. Germany's Sixth Army, numbering $364,000, is surrounded at Stalingrad. In just hours, the trap closes. Escape is impossible. No rescue force can penetrate. From Luftwaffe 4 headquarters, Reichsmarschall Hermann Göring gives a command to a single man, Generalfeldmarschall Wolfram Freiherr von Richthofen. The directive is straightforward, unachievable. Resupply the encircled forces via airlift. Richthofen, among Nazi Germany's finest leaders, holding a doctorate in aeronautical engineering, a tactical genius who molded the Luftwaffe, gets the order and whispers words a staff aide would always remember. Unthinkable to even conceive of it, yet he would attempt it. And the following events uncovered something much bleaker than mere strategic defeat. How expertise is rendered useless when doctrine requires the unfeasible. To grasp the weight of Richthofen's reaction, one must understand the man. Wolfram Freiherr von Richthofen differed from the usual Nazi general. He was a pragmatist, uncommon within Hitler's command structure. Delivered in 1895 to Prussian aristocracy in Lower Silesia, Richthofen might have selected an existence of noble comfort. He chose engineering instead. He attended the Technical University of Berlin for aeronautical engineering, gaining his doctorate by 1929. His thesis? A secret analysis of mass manufacturing methods for all-metal airplanes. In the 1930s, while Hitler covertly rearmed German air strength against the Treaty of Versailles, Richthofen emerged as a key designer of the Luftwaffe. He was no fighter ace, despite downing 8 Allied aircraft in World War I. He was much more essential. He comprehended air power's mechanics, not emotionally, but numerically. As the Spanish Civil War began in 1936, Richthofen commanded fighting units in the Condor Legion. He analyzed how air assistance could be synchronized with troops on the ground. He created strategies. He adapted. In 1939, when Nazi Germany initiated its assault on Poland, Richthofen led the 8th Flieger Corps, and he transformed the way air power was combined with land warfare. Poland. France. The Battle of Britain. In every operation, Richthofen's advancements influenced the result. He was not the cruelest Nazi leader, although his renown for brutality was deserved. He was different. He was capable. He perceived issues distinctly. He addressed them methodically. By 1942, Richthofen was among Hitler's preferred generals. He was elevated to General der Flieger. He received the Knight's Cross. He earned deference even from those who loathed him. When he discussed supply lines or manufacturing or the feasible versus the unfeasible, others paid attention. This would soon alter. August 1942. Germany's summer attack in southern Russia was meant to be definitive. The objective? Seize the Caucasus. 70% of Soviet oil output. The attack on Stalingrad proper was nearly secondary. Take the city. Employ it as a launch pad further into the Caucasus. Easy. The Soviets, however, had different intentions. They streamed reinforcements toward Stalingrad. What started as a German push turned into a grueling, savage street fight. By late September, General Friedrich Paulus's German Sixth Army was stuck in close-quarters warfare, depleting personnel and materials at a dreadful pace. Richthofen perceived it plainly. He noted in his journal, "The Russians are dispatching reinforcements from every direction." He could not conceal his frustration. Paulus appeared tentative, unwilling to engage completely. Richthofen pressed him. "Seize this day," he urged. "I cannot guarantee this tomorrow." Yet Richthofen's bombers failed to crush the city's will. Conversely, the huge bombardment of August 23rd, 2,000 missions in one day, roughly 40,000 civilians dead, had made Stalingrad an ideal defensive structure for Soviet soldiers. The debris, the wreckage, the broken structures transformed into a stronghold. By early November, German reconnaissance found something menacing. Soviet forces massing on both wings of the Sixth Army. A Soviet counterattack was imminent. Richthofen's spy planes observed it. He was aware. Paulus was aware. The issue was not whether the Soviets would assault, but at what time. On November 19, 1942, they struck. Two Soviet army formations hit concurrently from the north and south. The German wings, held by inferior Romanian and Hungarian units, disintegrated in hours. By November 23rd, the trap was fully set. The Sixth Army was encircled. Over 364,000 German troops were caught in an area about 15 miles wide. Every supply route was severed. No relief forces could get to them. No escape was feasible. The Sixth Army was perishing. And then the command arrived directly from Adolf Hitler. Maintain Stalingrad. Do not fall back. Do not capitulate. Hold. Göring received this directive and made a deadly vow. The Luftwaffe shall provision the army, he announced. We are able. I ensure it. Richthofen, observing this occur from his command post, understood otherwise. He knew the calculations. He knew the science. He knew what was feasible and what was not. Richthofen instantly started computing. Sixth Army required provisions to live and resist. Using past usage data, an encircled force of that magnitude required about 1,800 tons of food daily and 4,000 tons of fuel daily, merely to sustain basic functions. This meant 5,800 tons per day. The Luftwaffe's cargo fleet was composed mainly of Junkers Ju-52 cargo planes. The Ju-52 possessed a cargo limit of about 1.5 tons. It could manage one return flight daily from the closest airstrips to Stalingrad, a range of about 140 to 200 miles, contingent on Soviet progress. The calculations were harsh. If all Ju-52s in the southern region were assigned, with zero attrition and ideal conditions, the Luftwaffe might provide maybe 150 to 200 tons daily typically. On some days, possibly higher. On many days, much lower. The shortfall was immense. Sixth Army required 5,800 tons. The Luftwaffe could manage 150 to 200. Richthofen approached Göring. He presented the figures. He detailed the unfeasibility. He contended the Sixth Army must try to escape at once while fuel lasted, before the envelopment solidified and the Soviets blocked exit paths. Göring refused to hear. Hitler had issued the command. Stalingrad had to be defended. The Luftwaffe would provision it. Richthofen knew this was a condemnation, not only for the Sixth Army, but for the Luftwaffe. Yet he was a German officer. He would comply. On November 24, 1942, the air supply started. Richthofen, one of Germany's sharpest military thinkers, dedicated himself to a mission he knew was futile. He redeployed airplanes. He set up supply caches. He arranged teams. He directed all available assets toward the unachievable objective. By December 7, 1942, the airlift hit its maximum delivery, 362.6 tons in one day. For a short time, it appeared maybe the unfeasible could be done. Then winter came with full intensity. The temperature dropped to 30 degrees below zero. Snowstorms rendered flight hazardous or unfeasible. Planes were forced to stay down for days. When they flew, airmen battled gales, ice, and Soviet fighter patrols. Richthofen's teams were valiant. They flew in weather that slew men. They sustained losses that were overwhelming, yet the calculations stayed relentless. On certain days, the airlift provided just 94 tons. The shortfall increased. The pocket famished. Soviet troops, meantime, continued assaulting. The envelopment constricted. German air bases were lost. Tutsinskaya, a crucial field, was taken on December 24th by Soviet armor. The range from the last German air bases to Stalingrad grew to 200 miles. Fuel usage doubled. Shipments plunged. The Luftwaffe's aircraft losses were disastrous. By the time the mission concluded on February 3, 1943, 488 aircraft were wrecked or seized. More than 1,000 airmen were gone. The cargo fleet would not completely rebound. Concurrently, Sixth Army in Stalingrad got 8,350 tons of provisions across 72 days. It required well over 400,000 tons. The pocket was famished. Troops were consuming horses, then dogs, then one another. In mid-December 1942, General-Lieutenant Martin Fiebig, subordinate to Richthofen managing the airlift, saw Richthofen at his command post in Novokirkatsk. The circumstances had turned desperate. General Paulus advised that his soldiers were famished. He required 1,800 tons of food and 4,000 tons of fuel daily, higher than first calculated. Fiebig was a capable officer. He grasped logistics. He grasped air power. He gazed at Richthofen in despair. Certainly there was some action to be taken. Richthofen was silent for a time. Then he stated, "It was unachievable. One cannot predict how events will progress. These were not the statements of a broken man. They were the statements of a man affirming arithmetic reality. As Christmas 1942 neared, the situation worsened. The Tutsinskaya air base was lost. Soviet attacks persisted. The pocket's boundary contracted. Sixth Army was not receiving provisions. It was gradually being annihilated, bit by bit, in the icy remnants of a city. By January 1943, German officers in the pocket were begging for leave to escape. Paulus transmitted frantic radio signals. The soldiers could not endure much longer. They were freezing. They were famished. They were perishing by the thousands. Yet Hitler denied it. Hold. Do not fall back. That was the command. Richthofen observed this develop with frigid certainty. He had advised them it was unfeasible. They had not heeded. Now, the unfeasible was turning into the disastrous. On January 31, 1943, following 72 days of envelopment, after the Luftwaffe had sacrificed 488 airplanes and over 1,000 airmen, after 8,350 tons of provisions had been shown absurdly insufficient, General Friedrich Paulus capitulated. From the 364,000 German troops who were caught in Stalingrad, roughly 91,000 endured imprisonment. The remainder were slain in battle or perished from hunger, exposure, and sickness. It was the deepest military disaster in German history. Richthofen, the man who cautioned it was unfeasible, who attempted regardless, who gave 488 airplanes and one Euro crewman in a vain effort to rescue a force that could not be rescued, sat at his command post and noted in his journal, "The Führer determined that Stalingrad must be held. My dispatches have consequently either not been presented or are not being treated seriously. In previous eras, repercussions would have followed from that. But in the current situation, one is handled like a foolish donkey and is powerless to change anything." He was not enraged. He was not resentful. He was affirming fact. The capable man in Hitler's Germany was now insignificant. The crucial thing was not what was feasible. It was what the Führer required. A fortnight after, on February 16, 1943, Adolf Hitler elevated Wolfram Freiherr von Richthofen to Generalfeldmarschall, General Field Marshal. At 47 years of age, he was the most junior man ever to attain that position in German or Prussian military history. It was a prize for his excellent command. The man who cautioned the mission was unfeasible, who informed Hitler of the reality, who observed thousands of soldiers perish because that reality was dismissed, who gave up the best of the Luftwaffe's cargo fleet in a futile effort to rescue a force that was already lost. He was elevated. This is the contradiction of capability beneath autocratic governance. The man who perceives most plainly is unable to stop catastrophe. The man who voices reality is either dismissed or disciplined. And when the catastrophe occurs regardless, when the facts show him entirely correct, he is prized for his allegiance in attempting the unfeasible. Richthofen kept on serving. He led Luftwaffe units in Italy. He battled on several fronts. Yet the Stalingrad Airlift fractured something inside him. By October 1944, he suffered intense headaches and fatigue. In November, he was found to possess a brain tumor. He was placed on medical furlough and removed from active service. He passed away in Allied custody on July 12, 1945, only weeks following Germany's capitulation. He was 49, the man holding a doctorate in aeronautical engineering. the masterful strategist who had molded modern air power, the officer who was correct regarding everything, regarding the unfeasibility of Stalingrad, regarding the arithmetic that could not be dismissed, regarding how doctrine ruins capability. He died aware that his cautions had been accurate. He died aware that his capability had been insignificant. He died aware that in Hitler's Germany, the one thing of consequence was compliance with the unfeasible. And that is the actual tragedy of Wolfram von Richthofen. Not that he was unsuccessful, but that he was correct the entire time.